Alright guys, so today we got the new Polaris Electra 440 that I just picked up for 30 bucks about an hour ago. You're gonna hear the background noise. That's actually the kerosene heater, torpedo heater. I'm just trying to thaw off the track because I don't really have heat in my garage because this thing was sitting out in the snowbank. So we're gonna just pull the plugs. It needs recoil fixed and exhaust put on. Everything else looks okay. Track was intact, but it's a 440 fan. I'm gonna wrap a rope on the hub and just try to get spark. I'll get you guys a closer shot, but I just want to get you guys a little bit of a shot. Me working on it. I'll put the camera kind of up closer so you guys can kind of see. But I'll kind of leave the camera right here, and I'll be right back. It's got some like VR70s, I think. It's a pretty hot plug, what I'm used to. But I'll probably just see if it's got spark this way. Looks like there's a mouse nest. I can see insulation underneath the fan shroud. So maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea. Oh, you got mice nest inside the engine. A little bit, looks like. So that's not good. And these ends are all sorts of linked. That's not looking too good. Just stick these in there. Let's see if we get a little spark action. I guess I'm gonna have to wrap a rope on the hub just till I fix the recoil. But we'll see if we just let these out here. Like so. Let's see if we get any spark. Try to get a good angle here. These freaking wires are not cooperating. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get the rope and try to wrap it in the hub. Take this thing, it should spin clockwise from the flywheel. So that means I should be able to just take it, rotate it that way. I actually found the key. It had no key when I bought it, but I looked underneath the seat and there the key was, so perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll bring you guys around to this side. There's gonna be a lot of noise in the background, like I said, because of the torpedo heater, but we'll get you guys a shot from right there. Try that again. Don't see anything there either. I'm not sure if the points could be all sorts of whacked out. It might be a little bit runched. I'll get some different plugs right now. I'm gonna go get some different spark plugs just to put in here. Now I'm gonna put them back in, maybe, and I put my little light tester in and see if I get anything. All right, so we got my little cheap spark checker. These are kind of reliable. Maybe they'll show me a light if I can't see it. We'll just kind of screw the plugs back in. These are some different spark plugs from my Polaris Colt that I replaced the spark plugs yesterday, but these are okay enough to check spark, so we'll do it this way. And if I still don't have spark, we're going to be able to do a little bit more troubleshooting. Off the bus, what's going on. I'll put a hand tight for now. But basically I'll just check one. That on there. That on there. I'll take one spark plug out actually, just to make it easier to pull over. Makes it a lot easier. It's connected. Let's see if it'll go to ground. Maybe this way. It'll show us. see anything there. Weird. Might have been a little off. I'm not sure. Trying to check at least the connection. There we go. We got spark now. You guys seen that? All I did was just touch the coil wire was kind of off in the back. I didn't look at this one. I'm going to see if this one here works any better. But you guys seen that? Spark that time. Sweet. More wrap. Ah. Yep. I seen spark on this one as well. So sweet. We got that figured out. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a closer look. Pardon the noise once again, guys, but what I did is actually a connection down there where it actually hooks on the coil. I just pushed it on a little tighter, and then you guys seen this one light up, and then I just seen this one arc here. So I think we're good on the spark. So that is awesome. That's good to hear. Get you guys a little better view. So that is good. We got spark. I might try to just put a little bit of fuel down the spark plug hole to see if it pops, because there is no exhaust, so I don't want to do anything too sketchy with the exhaust pipe being off. I might unplug the heater for a second just so you guys can hear me better. Alright, I think you guys can hear me a little better with the heater off, and I just wanted to kind of get the track unthawed, but you guys see we got some spark now, which is awesome. That's taken care of. So we can just put the plugs back in. Actually, I might just put some fuel in the plug, like I said, and we'll just kind of try to start it from there. I got some pre-mixed fuel. So you guys can see it's unthawing. We got spark. That's awesome. I was actually getting a little worried when I didn't see spark the first time. But maybe it's just a loose connection on the wire. Obviously, it's sparking now. You never know when they sit outside, especially with points ignition. The contacts can get rusted, corroded. And you got to pull the flywheel off usually to get at them, so that can be a bigger job. Just looking at it right now, I mean, the connections, the wires are all here. Here's the regulator. Looks like it has a fuel filter in line, which is nice. Here was a light bulb for something hanging here. It's got the air cleaner still on it. Let's see if I fill this fuel line. Fuel line is brittle. Choke. Choke seems to work. God, that freaking throttle got hot. This from the heater. I was gonna say that handle got hot, but the throttle works. That's good. Looking at the air boot, doesn't look too cracked. I don't think it's too broken. Like I said, these are just single carburetors with a Y pipe. There should be a Mikuni. Yeah, it looks like a Mikuni 34 millimeter probably, or 36. But I'm going to just get a little 2-cycle gas, and we'll just kind of dump it down the spark plug hole and just see if it pops. So we'll do that next. Alright guys, I just got a little bit of gas down the cylinders. I'm going to work quick here and just tighten these spark plugs up real quick. Quickly connect the wires. And then I got to wrap my rope yet. And I lost my ratchet. Probably should have wrapped the rope first, but we'll see what happens. See if I can get it to pop. Ready? There she popped. Sweet. So we know it'll run, guys. Ooh, smells like ancient two-stroke fumes. All right, I think that's a success. She pops. I'm gonna go ahead and get to the fuel tank now, and we'll see what kind of fuel's in it. Maybe pump that fuel out and put some fresh premix in it. Check over the carb. Maybe take the air box off, maybe not, I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna take a look at the recoil, probably put the pipe on. We'll go from there. But you guys see we got spark, she fired. Heck yeah, doing good. I'm gonna go ahead and check what's in the fuel tank next and see if there's any fuel in the lines. Maybe I can get the line off, see if the fuel pump's working, and kind of look at the fuel pump. So I'm gonna give you a shot of this kind of side of the snowmobile for now, and we'll just kind of go from there. But we're doing good. For a $30 snowmobile, it's doing all right. I was expecting it to be a lot worse. But at least I found the key. I was going to have to find a key for it if I didn't find one. Or use a screwdriver and just punch it out. Still trying to figure out these hood latches as well, if anyone knows about these hood latches. But, yeah, it definitely smells like stale varnish. Definitely. Fuel gauge looks like it works. It's like half full of this disgusting gas. There you guys can see the kind of gas coming out of it. It definitely was pre-mixed with some kind of oil. It definitely smells bad, so I'm gonna try to get the majority of what I can get out. My transfer pump is kind of slow, so I want to do this off camera, get the gas tank, most I can get out of it. I got some fresh premix. I'll put that in. Might change the fuel filter right away as well, just to make sure I got fresh fuel going in it, but that's what we're gonna do, and we'll go from there. So I got the fuel tank drained, got all the gas out. I took the air box off. God dang it. I'll put you guys back. Okay. I got the air box out because I wanted to make sure that wasn't going to be in the way if I want to replace this fuel line. And the boot wasn't doing anything on the air box, so it was useless. So I took that off. But the big thing I noticed was this main intake mounting flange, huge crack in it. So it's going to suck in air and run lean. So I got to take care of that right away before I even try to do any running. I'll see how much a new one costs. Otherwise, I'll try to repair this one with some JB weld, but that's not the right way you should do it. I'll see how much they are. Usually they're pretty cheap, but if I want to stay with nothing in this thing, I'll just try to repair this one. But I'm just not gonna feel safe running it like this. I'm gonna take the carb off. That'll be a good time to show a carb cleaning video for you guys, because it's simple enough. So we'll do that. We'll clean the carburetor. I'm gonna replace the fuel filter right away because I can get at it nice with the air box out. But I want to make sure this intake flange is addressed, get that fixed, and then I can do some running. I got to put the exhaust pipe on yet, and I'll probably look at the recoil, but if I have to, I'll just start it with the rope on the hub. It's kind of dangerous to do that. Sometimes the rope can get stuck, but I'll see how screwed up the recoil is. If I can fix it, that'd be great to put the recoil back on and use that, because that's always awesome to use instead of wrapping the rope every time. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. I got to put a fuel filter in it. Got the tank drained. I'm gonna get the carb off, get that flange off. That's right up here. I'll get you guys a zoom in shot maybe and see if you can see the split. Hang on a second, guys. See if I can zoom in here from back down here. I'll zoom in kind of down there. It's going to be kind of blurry, but if you guys can see, I'm going to try to point. It's right in here. There's a huge split. So it's going to be kind of tough to see, but that's about as best I can do for you. But other than that, that's kind of what we got going on right now. We'll get the carburetor off, get that off. I'll try to do some fixing on that, get the fuel lines figured out. And I'll check out the track and make sure. I got to look at the brakes too. The brakes were kind of stuck. Maybe the calipers seized. So I might have to do a little bit of a soaking of the caliper and kind of get it loose. Other than that, it should be a runner. Gonna need a little bit of work yet. I believe this is a 1974. It said on the tag down here, it says July of 73 on here. So I'm guessing that's a 74. And the serial number is 0915670. Model number I can't read right now. So decent little sled for 30 bucks, guys. The old Electra. We made a lot of progress since you guys have seen the last part. First part of the video, we got spark, checked out the fuel system, looked it over. I did a lot of work off camera that I'm going to go explain real quick, and then we're going to go clean the carburetor, and then we'll probably finish up part 2 right there. So what I did, I got the brakes freed up and working, guys. The brakes were all sorts of seized up. I took the master, so I guess brake reservoir. It was all full of rust powder in there, no fluid at all. Cleaned it all out, flushed the entire line. This here puck was all sorts of seized up. We got that all unstuck. And then I went down here. I took the bleeder completely out, and then I took the line right off, so I made sure I got fresh fluid getting out of the line, and then I put it on, and then bled the brakes a little bit, and they do work pretty good right now. They're not perfect, but as soon as you touch them, I mean, it locks up the secondary, so that's working good. That was the majority of what I was doing. I was working on the brakes. It took me about an hour or so. We're going to get some fresh spark plugs in this thing yet. And I also put on, you guys can see I got new fuel lines on there and a filter. I did that right away. You guys can see there. That back fitting right there was super fragile. Oh my God, the lines were so freaking rock solid. I don't know how I didn't break off that plastic fitting, but I got lucky. I split the hose with a razor blade, and I got nice new lines. We got a filter, got the line right there that goes to the carb. So we're going to get the carb cleaned, put it back on. The intake manifold, I actually took it off, inspected it. It wasn't broken all the way through. I just put some goop around it and just kind of prevented it from ripping anymore. And then Yama bonded the backside of it and stuck it on and rebolted it. So I think we'll be okay. I don't think it's going to run lean. It wasn't ripped all the way through. So we're just going to run it like that. I got the exhaust put on. Got some makeshift springs. I put a spring on around here. And the recoil, I still didn't really look at the recoil yet. I'm just going to rely on starting it with the rope tactic. I put fresh fuel in it. And yeah, so we did a lot of work since part one. It's looking a lot better. Everything's turning good. The secondary track's freed up. Everything's good there. We're just going to get that carburetor cleaned, and we'll see if we can fire the puppy up when we get some new spark plugs. Guys, we got the carburetor here from the Electra, and we're going to go ahead and just kind of give you some cleaning tips and show you how I clean the carburetor. So we're going to get right into that. First things first, I'll just take the bowl off, and then I'll kind of get into explaining what the jets control and all that stuff. Usually, typically, on these Mikuni round slides, it's 3 or 4 Phillips head screws. Take the float bowl off. Underneath, it's going to expose all your jets, your float, your needle jet, all that stuff. So basically, just take these screws out. And I've taken probably about 40 of these carburetors apart at least. And I work for a race shop, so we do a lot of jetting. So I know every kind of in and out of carburation. Sometimes you got to give them a little tap. Kind of jar it loose. So it's pretty stuck on there. But you don't want to use anything really metal. So I'm using the plastic of my screwdriver handle. Kind of just knock it loose. Alright guys, so we got the float bowl off. My God, what a job that was. This was one of the toughest float bowls I've ever had to take off. The gasket kind of got damaged, but I think it'll be okay. It's not completely ripped everywhere, but it is pretty bad. Hopefully we can get by. Otherwise, these gaskets are really, really cheap. They're like $1. So, and they fit a lot of different carburetors. So basically, inside the carburetor here, this small orifice that goes down that's embedded, that's the pilot jet. This is your main jet right here. This is the jet adapter, and then underneath that is the tube that is inside here, and that's also removable. Outside here, you have your pilot air screw. It's on the air cleaner side. So that means the further you turn it in, the richer your low speed mixture is, and the further you turn it out, it's actually leaning it out. So a good starting point on those is always 1 turn out. That's what I always preset mine to. Floats, guys, a little bit about float heights. These arms, I always like to have parallel with the gasket surface. You guys can see that's kind of sagging down a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll just bend the little tang down and push the float up a little bit so it's parallel with this gasket surface. That's a good float height. I'm not sure the exact millimeter spec, but I know that is a good measurement that will work for almost every application on these carburetors. Here's the float bowl. These floats have little caps on them so they don't fall off. I'll just wash this out real nice, get it clean, scrape off this old gasket. I might put some Yama bond or something I'll try to put on this gasket just to make it work. If it leaks, well, obviously it's got to get replaced. If I had one on hand, I would definitely put it in, but I just don't have the time to
wait a week for parts to come in. So we're going to try to run it as is, but in the real world, if you're going to do this, please replace the gasket. They're really cheap. We're going to go ahead and get started. Take the main jet out. Oh, satisfying snap there, guys. I'll zoom us back out just a slight bit. But here it is. This is your main jet. These are actually flat blades. Most of them you're going to see are 1/4 inch sockets, or I think a 6mm nut driver. But most of them are 1/4 inch, and they're actually a hex head. They look like this, just smaller. But this is very similar to a lot of Mikunis and Kians. It's a 135. I'm going to go ahead quickly grab a 10mm for this, and then I'll be able to push the emulsion tube out. We can go ahead and get the pilot jet out. I'm actually using my special pilot screwdriver. Kind of fits down in there like perfectly. And you got to kind of feel it out. You get on it, and it should come right out. And you just kind of tip it upside down, and it falls out. It's not really threaded in that far. It's this little guy right here. And the numbers are written from left to right. This is a 40 pilot. And I cannot see through it, so I'm guessing it's clogged. So I'll put that over here next to our main jet. We'll go ahead and get our 10mm. We'll take this jet adapter off, and might as well take my ear screw out while I'm at it, just to check it out. These you can take right out. There should be a spring behind it. Sometimes there's O-rings and little flat washers, but this one here is just a spring. Set that aside, because that's also connected with the pilot circuit and these air horns, little air jets outside. I'll show you guys in a second. But I'm going to go ahead and get the 10mm, and we'll get that off. All right, so we got our 10mm here. It's going to crack that loose. All it is an adapter that screws into the jet or needle jet, and then this screws into the main jet. So just kind of a midway point. And you guys can see, look at all the ethanol and varnish and goop stuck around there. That's all getting clogged up. You can actually run leaner when you have that happening. These things are stuck in there good too. What I like to do sometimes, guys, is I'll get a socket that's just about the size of the needle jet, and then I'll actually tap it down, because these actually are removable. They come out. So I'm going to go ahead and get it out. It's nice to clean them out and get all the varnish that's stuck in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little socket. I got my little hammer here, and I'm going to tap that thing out, and I'll show you guys how that comes out. Well, I wanted to show you guys removing the needle jet, but all I did was put this little socket, and I just kind of pushed on it, and it came loose. So here's what it looks like. It's got this open portion and the closed portion. The open portion is always going to be pointing to the intake side, because it's going to take the fuel and air, or fuel, and funnel it into the intake. So it can only go in one way. It's got a pin right here. You guys can see the locating pin. So I'll show you guys a kind of a little trick to put those back in, because they're kind of difficult. These are labeled. This is a Q8 tube. They're written left to right. It's got a little Mikuni symbol, and it's Q8. That's kind of their chart that they go by. This is there's P's, O's, Q's, R's, all kinds. There's BBOs, AA5s, CCOs. There's really big ones. These are one of the smaller ones, so it's Q8. If I had the spec book, I could double check to see if that's what stock came with. Basically, all I'm going to do now, check to see my float's operating. I'm going to bend my tang real quick. I need to bend it down so I can raise the float height a little bit. That's basically perfect right there. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but that's about right. That looks a lot better. Perfect. I just check to make sure the float's operating. It is. I'll show you the blow test that I do just by mouth to make sure the float needle is seating. Because usually they don't take any, I mean, it's only got to hold back maybe 5 to 7 psi at the very most on these old engines. So I'll show you guys how to check that when we're done cleaning. But basically what I'm going to do now, I'm going to brake clean all these orifices. And one of the things that a lot of people forget is all these passageways. So these are actually air jets or air bleeds. This one right here that goes along the side is actually for the choke. One of these two, I think the smaller one's for the pilot jet, and the bigger one's obviously for the main jet. So we always make sure we put either compressed air or brake clean through all these orifices and make sure they come out along with the pilot air screw. Also guys, when we get this all cleaned out in the bowl, we're going to clean that up. We also want to spray through all these jets. Pilot jet is one of the tougher ones to clean because it's such a small orifice. Sometimes I'll take a little piece of wire and put through it. It's probably the best option you have because it's such a small hole. Sometimes compressed air just won't break through. So get that cleaned out, get the main jet cleaned out, all the jets, clean them nice, make sure you can see through them, and we'll go ahead and put them back in the carburetor. The carburetor cleaned, it's going to be sufficient for what we're going to be doing. I got all the orifices clean. Everything is, see-through. I sprayed through all the air bleeds. The outside isn't the best. If I was going to do it, if I had my parts washer or something, like I am at work, everything gets cleaned. The outside would be spotless, stuff like that. But what we're going to do, it's going to work just fine. We got our float height still good. I'm going to show you guys what to do, putting it all back together. First, I would probably start off putting your needle jet in. Nice and clean. You can see through it. Everything's not blocked or anything. If you have a pencil, it works perfect for putting it on this end because you got to put it in with the opening through the top where the slide is. You got to put it in. So I'm going to just balance it here. I have the opening to the intake already, and then I kind of look through there, and then I kind of line it up, and I'll start pushing it in. But I got to rotate it just a little bit. It's not quite perfect, and there it is. So when it's done, usually carburetors don't have this. It'll just be open, but you guys can see the opening is facing that way. This is the intake side. Here's what it looks like from the back. It's down in there. Up here is where it's going to get attached with the jet adapter, which is this guy. I'm not sure what the correct name is for it, but I just call it a jet adapter or a main jet adapter, whatever you would like to call it. Get all the varnish off the underneath side of it so it seals good. Don't need any of that getting sucked in. Let me go ahead and we just screw it on down. And all these guys are brass. You don't need to go Hulk mode on any of this stuff. Just lightly snug it. I've seen people snap plenty of these off before. It's not exactly the most fun. If you get lucky and get it out, it's good, but sometimes you don't. Here's the main jet we took out. We can see through it nice and clean. We're going to put that in. And then our main jet circuit is all done. Go ahead. Now I'll use this screwdriver here. Just a little bit of a snugging. And I can see through good. I can also see through the pilot orifice, which is good, guys. Always make sure you can see daylight through that. That's a good sign. I can see through my pilot jet now. I blew through it. Everything's good. I just drop it in, and you'll kind of find it with your screwdriver. And you just screw it down until you feel it gets snug, and just a little bit, and that's it. And I can still see daylight through both jets, which is good. They're going to be nice and clean. There should be no problem when it starts. The pilot jet, guys, is only responsible for idle to about maybe a quarter throttle. It does affect the other jets, but not as much. It's strictly just a low-speed idle jet. And that's why this fine-tune adjustment here, that's strictly just for idle, getting your idle to get to the right RPM. What this air screw does is it just adjusts how much fuel or air is delivered in that pilot jet. It's kind of the fine-tuning of the pilot jet. So it's only responsible for low speed, maybe idle to eighth throttle, maybe quarter, and that's about it. Your needle, which is on your slide, which is still on the sled over there, that's responsible from anywhere from quarter to three-quarter throttle. And that needle goes inside of the needle jet that we took out, that we put in from the bottom. That's got a tapered needle, and the further you pick up your slide, it lets more fuel go past the needle into the carburetor. And there's 5 positions, guys, on a needle. The top position is 1, and counting down, there's 5. The 5th position is going to be the richest setting. Number 1 is going to be the leanest setting. What you're doing with those clip positions is all you're doing is just moving how high the needle sits initially in the needle jet. So if you move that clip all the way to the bottom, the needle's getting picked up. You're letting more fuel go by sooner, so it's rich. If you put it in number 1, you're leaning it out, you're letting that needle drop down further into the needle jet. Therefore, not as much fuel gets by, it's leaner. So if you guys have any questions about that, usually I like to keep the needle position in number 3, which is the middle. That's pretty standard for stock jetting. So I just try to keep it in the middle. Unless you're having performance issues, you can try to go up or down 1. I wouldn't go up or down 2. I would just do 1 or the other. Never try to skip 2 right off the bat. So, and we got the needle jet and jet needle. We got the pilot jet, and the last is main jet. Main jet's just responsible for 3/4 to wide open throttle, and that's basically when the needle's all the way up. It's pulling fuel straight through this jet, right into the carburetor, or right into the throat of the carb, getting pulled into the engine. So the pilot jet's not affecting that, and the needle is all the way open, and just fuel is flowing through. However big this orifice is how much it's going to get. So make sure everything's still good there. But yeah, that's basically the circuitry of the carburetor. If you have any questions, if you want me to go over anything in depth, just feel free to comment down below. Put the carburetor back together, put it in the machine, and we'll see if we can get the thing fired up. So also, guys, make sure you put the air screw back in. Like I said, 1 turnout is great for starting off. Maybe a turn and a half, but if you have a manual, it's probably going to tell you the spec anyways, so always follow your manual if you have one.
Keep going.
And if I can keep it going with the brake.
I can go on, right?